The movie opens in a lab where a scientist injects a mysterious green liquid into an egg yolk. Instantly, a perfect duplicate of the yolk forms. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, famous actress Elizabeth receives her star on the Walk of Fame. Initially, her fans are excited, but interest fades over time. Her star becomes cracked and neglected. As she ages, Elizabeth struggles to find work, eventually landing a role hosting a fitness show. One day, she tries to use the women's bathroom, but it's out of order, so she uses the men's. While she's in a stall, the network president, Harvey, enters, still on a call, complaining about her age and how they need a younger host. Hearing this, Elizabeth is hurt and later gets fired by Harvey, who dismisses her with little emotion. On her way home, she sees her billboard being taken down, and shortly after, she's in a car accident. At the hospital, the doctor tells her she has no injuries and notices it's her birthday, which makes her tear up. A nurse tells her she needs one last test and examines her spine, calling her a perfect candidate for something unknown. When she leaves, Elizabeth finds a small package in her jacket pocket containing a flash drive labeled The Substance, with a note that says, "It changed my life, Fred," along with the phone number. At home, she watches the flash drive and learns about a product called The Substance, which allows people to transform between younger and older versions of themselves every 7 days. Thinking it's a scam, she tosses the drive. That night, she drinks heavily, only to feel sick, realizing she can't drink like she once could. Angry, she throws a snow globe at a photo of her younger self and retrieves the flash drive, calling the number. The next day, Elizabeth finds an ad for a replacement actress and throws it away in frustration. Later, she receives a black envelope and follows the instructions to a hidden door in a dark alley. Inside, she finds a box with her number containing an activator, stabilizer, switch, and special food. The instructions state she must activate it once, stabilize daily, and switch bodies every 7 days. After looking at her reflection, she injects the green liquid, feeling an intense pain before collapsing. Her body twists and distorts as her pupils duplicate and strange bulges appear. Suddenly, a giant slit opens on her body, from which a younger version of herself emerges. Checking the mirror, Elizabeth realizes she's in a youthful body again. She notices her original green eyes are faintly visible behind new blue ones. She administers the special food to the old body, stabilizing it. The following morning, she experiences nosebleeds and a screeching sound, reminding her to stabilize. She draws spinal fluid from her old body and injects it into her new one, which immediately stops the symptoms. She buys new clothes, introduces herself as Sue at an audition, and impresses Harvey, who hires her with the condition she only works every other week, citing a sick mother. Thrilled with her new life, Sue becomes the center of attention and enjoys a fresh billboard with her face. Every day, she stabilizes but leaves Elizabeth's old body lying in her bathroom. At the end of the week, Sue connects the two bodies, transferring blood, and reverts to Elizabeth, feeling the ache of her scarred back. She retrieves a box of her things from Harvey, who coldly dismisses her. Her time as Elizabeth feels dull and miserable, and she eagerly awaits her next turn as Sue. Another black envelope arrives with supplies for her stabilizing injections. When Sue returns the next week, she begins constructing a secret room in her bathroom for her other body, hammering at the wall. A neighbor knocks to complain but backs off when he sees Sue, who tells him Elizabeth has moved out. Once the hidden room is ready, she stashes Elizabeth's body inside, along with a large poster, ready to fully embrace her new life. As Sue, she becomes a beloved TV host, relishing her popularity and the admiration of her fans. Thanks to her youthful looks and confidence, Sue often parties at night with other young people, even inviting one guy back to her place. But just as things heat up, she hears the familiar screeching sound and feels a nosebleed, signaling that it's time to switch back. Rushing to the hidden room, she finds Elizabeth's body struggling after finishing its last food pack. Eager to return to her guests, Sue breaks protocol by reusing a stabilizer and extracting more spinal fluid from Elizabeth, instantly feeling better. She heads back to enjoy the night, but when her date unzips her clothes, a cascade of organs and blood pours out. Startled, Sue wakes up from this disturbing dream and finally completes the body exchange. The next morning, Elizabeth finds the apartment in disarray and a note from the guy saying he'll return for his bike. To her horror, she notices an aged spot on her hand. Consequence of spending extra hours as Sue. She tries washing it off to no avail, then calls the number from the flash drive for help. The mysterious voice coldly informs her that the damage can't be undone and reminds her that Sue isn't a separate person. Frustrated, Elizabeth cleans up the mess while watching Sue on TV, which only intensifies her irritation. When a neighbor knocks attempting to ask her out, Elizabeth doesn't respond. Later, she picks up her refill box in the alley, where she hears a faint sound that resembles Sue, frightening her into running away. Taking refuge in a diner, she keeps her hand concealed in a glove. An elderly man nearby casually remarks that 7 days can feel like an eternity. Elizabeth notices he has the same birthmark as the nurse who initially gave her the flash drive, confirming the man as the nurse's true older self. He confides in her, explaining that the routine becomes isolating and that it's easy to forget that the old body has value too. When he asks if she's felt the younger self start to take over, Elizabeth flees. Outside her building, she runs into the guy from the night before who came to retrieve his bike, and he angrily scolds her. Feeling insecure, Elizabeth calls Fred and arranges a date, dressing up and copying Sue's makeup style. However, on her way out, she sees Sue's billboard, which makes her feel self-conscious. She modifies her look to match her age, but the billboard image continues to haunt her. Distraught, she returns to her bathroom, ruins her makeup, and cancels her date, ignoring all texts from Fred. The following week, while filming her show, Sue panics as a strange bulge appears on her backside. She feels humiliated when the crew replays the footage to investigate, so she quickly covers up and retreats to her dressing room. In private, she forces the bulge to her stomach, then reaches through her belly button to pull it out, revealing it's just a chicken leg. Later, after switching back, Sue finds food leftovers everywhere, signs that Elizabeth has been binge eating to cope with her depression. Furious, Sue calls the number to complain, frustrated that Elizabeth gets to laze around while she juggles work and a tight schedule. The voice reminds her there is no you and her, just one person. Sue's career takes an unexpected boost when Harvey offers her a New Year's Eve hosting gig due to her rising popularity. Determined not to miss this chance, she repeatedly taps into Elizabeth's spinal fluid to extend her time as Sue, consumed by her career momentum and ignoring the consequences. When Elizabeth finally regains control, she's horrified by the sight of her own body, now a decrepit shell barely able to move. She calls the mysterious number, venting about Sue's reckless behavior. The voice suggests canceling the entire program, meaning Sue would never return. Tempted but unwilling to let go of her newfound success, Elizabeth declines, scolding herself for forgetting that she and Sue are the same person. On her final night as Elizabeth, she attempts to stand up, but her legs won't cooperate, so she painfully moves them with her hands. With a surge of anger, she begins cooking heaps of food while listening to Sue's TV interview, where Sue mocks the old show, and by extension, Elizabeth. Enraged, Elizabeth throws food at the TV, then at Sue's billboard outside, covering it with newspaper. Before switching bodies, Elizabeth scolds herself in the mirror, warning Sue to exercise control. When Sue awakens to a filthy apartment, she's disgusted and lashes out, vowing revenge. She injects herself with several doses of Elizabeth's spinal fluid, determined to avoid changing back. 3 months later, Sue is still in control, basking in her rising fame with ads for her New Year's Eve show everywhere. That night, she brings another man home, leaving him in the bedroom while she sneaks to the hidden room to extract more fluid. The wound is now badly infected and the fluid appears dark and decayed. Feeling faint, Sue contacts the voice, who explains the fluid is depleted and needs time to regenerate, which requires her to switch bodies. Panic-stricken as her big show is the next day, she refuses until severe pain and nosebleeds force her to crawl back and complete the switch. Elizabeth awakens in her old, weakened body and hurriedly locks the bathroom door, hiding from the man outside. Examining herself in the mirror, she's horrified to see a monstrous, decaying version of herself. Furious, she orders the man to leave and struggles to walk, eventually collapsing in the living room. She decides to cancel the transformation and retrieves her old poster from the hidden room. The next morning, Elizabeth receives a final black envelope. She covers her ravaged body with as many layers as possible, frightening her neighbor as she leaves to pick up the package in the alley. Inside is a single syringe with a dark liquid. Despite a warning voice in her head, she injects the fluid into Sue's body but hesitates, remembering the upcoming show. Realizing what she's done, she performs CPR on Sue, causing her nose to bleed, a sign of life. She uses the blood exchange kit to bring Sue back to consciousness. Both women stare at each other, horrified, until Sue notices the termination syringe and attacks Elizabeth, pushing her into the shattered poster, then attempting to choke her. Elizabeth smashes a vase over Sue's head and runs to the bathroom, but Sue breaks down the door, relentlessly assaulting Elizabeth until she lies lifeless. Consumed by guilt but still focused on her show, Sue heads to the station. While getting her makeup done, she begins to cough uncontrollably and feels a tooth loosen. In horror, she pulls 2 more teeth, finding they fall out effortlessly. She meets with Harvey and the shareholders, hiding her disintegrating mouth behind a closed-lip smile. As she steps into the elevator, her fingernails begin peeling off and one of her ears falls onto her lap. Trying to act calm, she covers the empty spot on her head, waiting until she's alone before fleeing back to her apartment. In desperation, Sue injects herself with the activator meant for one-time use, hoping to regenerate a new, beautiful body. As her back splits open, she undergoes an agonizing transformation only to see a grotesque, deformed creature staring back in the mirror, a fusion of herself and Elizabeth, with Elizabeth's face grafted onto her back. Dubbed Eliza Sue, the monstrous being throws up the green liquid and dresses up in her show outfit. She glues a piece of the destroyed poster to her face as a mask and applies lipstick, creating a grotesque parody of her former self. Eliza Sue arrives at the station, delighting in the applause and praise she imagines from the staff. But the scene quickly fades and she's left with the tragic reality of her monstrous existence. The dark, unsettling climax unfolds as Eliza Sue stumbles onto the main stage under the cover of darkness. When the lights blaze on, she stands at the microphone attempting to speak, but only a garbled mumble escapes her twisted mouth. Then, with horrifying suddenness, her mask slips off, revealing the disfigured, grotesque face beneath. Her body convulses and she starts vomiting up decayed body parts, each splattering grotesquely onto the stage. The audience is frozen in shock, silent at first, but as a woman's horrified scream cuts through the quiet, chaos erupts. People begin shouting, calling her a monster and a freak, and a group of men surge forward, pushing her, jeering and hurling insults. She stumbles to the floor, tears streaming down her face as she tries to speak, but no sound comes, only garbled moans. Her pain and helplessness seem endless. One man steps forward, wielding a baseball bat, and with a brutal swing, decapitates her. But her head slowly regenerates, even as her left arm suddenly detaches, spraying the crowd in torrents of blood. The floor is soon slick, and as the room becomes a macabre bloodbath, people slip and fall, unable to escape the gory scene as they stumble into one another in panic. In their frenzy, Eliza Sue claws her way out of the building and flees down the darkened streets, but her failing body crumbles, disintegrating into thousands of bloody, broken pieces. Yet amid the ruin, Elizabeth's face emerges, crawling inch by inch toward the star on the pavement she once dreamt of. She rests on it, blissfully lost in memories of her past glory, until her flesh begins to melt away, dissolving into nothing. The next morning, a floor scrubber whirs over the blood-soaked pavement, erasing the remnants of the nightmare as though it were just another stain on the street. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.